On your journey to defeat Dr. Eggman in Sonic 1, your goal is to stop him from taking over the world. And although there's no dialogue, you can get an idea of what his ideal landscape is through the gradual shift from natural looking environments to full out laboratories. Time and time again, the dynamic of the series focuses on Sonic's quest to stop Eggman's global conquest, with the player constantly being reminded that Eggman having his way would be a disaster of epic proportions. And for the most part, Sonic prevented that doomsday scenario from happening. In Sonic Unleashed though, the unthinkable happens. He beats Sonic, shatters the earth while harnessing the near limitless energy possessed by Dark Gaia, turns Sonic into a freaking werewolf, and most importantly, he finally achieves a viable means of building his ultimate utopia.
Welcome to Eggmanland, the brainchild of my heart and soul. This is my magnificent empire, made possible through my genius and the limitless energy harnessed from Dark Gaia. Sonic, if you have any complaints, come deliver them to me in person. If you can, that is.
Eggmanland represents the absolute peak of Eggman's genius, spread across a continent so large that Sonic takes days to clear it, and he was very meticulous with the design of the place too, as shown by the various pieces of Eggman iconography plastered around the stage and the hub world that unlocks after completing it. Statues of himself everywhere, robots as the citizens of this new land, barring the hot dog stand guy, how the fuck is he here? And a giant neon sign right above the entrance in case you weren't already aware that this is Eggman's land. Tying this all together is the foreboding musical piece that plays while you're here, which does a magnificent job at selling Eggman's visions for the place. But enough gushing over the concept and aesthetics of the level, let's get down to how it plays. Sonic Unleashed has two distinct gameplay styles, the fast-paced, energetic stages of Daytime Sonic and the slower beat-em-up style of the Werehog, and Eggman's Crimson Carnival uses both of them to great effect. Throughout the level, you'll constantly wander to hourglasses, the same ones you encountered in the hub world that transform you from Hedgehog to Werehog or vice versa. And given that the time of day changes when doing that, the implication is that it takes Sonic quite a while to scale Eggman's amusement park. And god damn are these the longest days in Sonic's life. Eggman spent his entire life in pursuit of this utopia, and he ain't gonna let you take it from him without a fight. It's not uncommon for players to spend up to an hour here on their first run through due to the combination of tight platforming, beginner's traps, and problematic game design. And I love it. Well, for the most part anyway. The level begins where the hub world ends, in a tunnel as Daytime Sonic where you're taken down a linear path with lasers and a few enemies. After clearing the room, you lightspeed dash across the row of rings in the air and get taken to a QT panel, where the city/amusement park truly opens up and we get to see just how large it truly is. You can't take too long here however, as the QT is timed, and failure to complete it will have Sonic fall into the abyss. After that, you're taken to the urban area of the level, where you can either grind and rail suspended above ground level and take a cool shortcut, or, to my utter shock, take the bottom path which has its very own platforming sequence. This part of the level sure as hell wasn't designed for the way Daytime Sonic controls however, as there's a lot of stupidly tight platform where it doesn't mesh with Unleashed's rather loose controls when not boosting. Not a deal breaker as there's a pretty obvious way to skip it, but let that be a sign of things to come. After getting through that, you come across an hourglass, and we all know what that means. Anyways, the Werehog is one of the more controversial gameplay styles introduced to the Sonic series. While most fans gush over the quality of the daytime stuff, the nighttime stages are something people either love or hate. And while I've got a video in the works talking about the Werehog and how he plays, I'll summarise my thoughts on him as such. I think the combat is great, but the platforming fucking sucks. The wire can be saved for another time, but this first portion actually isn't too bad. It's pretty simple platforming using some poles and pots of lava to advance. Although there are enemies spread throughout this section, you don't need to fight any of them until the last part of the section, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Probably the best Werehog part of the level all things considered. After that though, back to Daytime Sonic as he tackles the first 2.5D section of the level. where you must navigate around Eggman pusher blocks that instantly kill you on contact and perform a couple of wall jumps. Fairly standard stuff, however, one of the toughest parts of the level follows shortly. As you enter the roller coaster portion of the level, you gain 1-up. At first, you may believe that to be a bit generous. However, as you break apart from the roller coaster and begin traversing through the half-pipe structure, you soon realize it's a damn necessity for players to not get game over here. There's a shit ton of things for Sonic to dodge, and it only takes one hit to lose control of yourself and fall into a pit. They're not as bad as some sections of the DLC levels Unleashed has, which by the way, fucking suck! But they can be quite the annoyance for a first time player. As if that wasn't bad enough, the end of this sequence has a QTE that's mandatory to complete, else you die. And if you're like me, who's played Nintendo consoles quite a bit growing up, you will die. A lot. However, the infinitely respawning lives mean you'll eventually make it past a section, and when you do, you're treated to another werehog platforming bonanza. This is easily the most infamous part of the level, as you must walk and platform on extremely thin pipes of wonky controls, a non-existent drop shadow, leaps of faith, and very problematic camera angles. By far my least favourite area in the stage. Thankfully, you soon switch control over to Daytime Sonic, and this is easily the longest segment of gameplay he has. After tackling a 2D section that honestly isn't too bad if you play your cards right, we get pushed into another QTE fest, with your reactions being tested even more than before. Once more, fucking up one of these means death. Assuming you do succeed however, you're taken to another 2.5D section which tests your timing with homing attacks, jumps, and various other gimmicks. It eventually transitions into a 3D section with some simple platforming that once again turns into a QTE fest. After finishing that though, we get taken to a skydiving section where you must avoid lasers and other hazards while doing your best not to dive straight into the lava. This is where the level opens up a bit, well somewhat anyway. At this point, you can either A. use an hourglass to transform into the werehog and traverse through a mini platforming sequence, or B. go to the right and wall jump up a vertical structure, skipping the platforming sequence above. Whichever way you choose, you're going to end up in this elevator, at least that's what I think it is, as the werehog, where you must break an inconspicuous purple wall and pull a lever to open the path forward. One Super Mario 64 slide later and you're in the next segment, where you need to hit a couple of little shits in the air while a giant fan finishes them off, as defeating them opens up the path to another lever which opens the slide needed to progress. Your next obstacle comes in the form of this clumsy downward platforming section, where you're required to make leaps of faith due to the camera doing a really poor job of showing what's below you. Another slide awaits after this however, and it takes you to another elevator platform, where you must find a lever while avoiding the infinite hordes of robots that spawn. After doing that, you're taken to the final 2 rooms, where 3 titans and a bunch of wizards await you. Beat those, and the level finally ends.
Oh yeah, that's right, baby.
Based off my summary, this level seems like quite a mixed bag, right? Well, it kinda is. There's quite a few sections I never look forward to, like the roller coaster or those stupid pipe platforming challenges. However, this never pisses me off, and in fact excites me, due to one simple reason. It's Eggmanland. As stated before, this is the absolute peak of Eggman's mad science, and it's always been foreshadowed at this doomsday scenario. And having finally witnessed the fruits of Eggman's labour, it's just as terrifying as it was made out. From the Eggman iconography plastered everywhere, to numerous instances of do-or-die platforming and the hellish atmosphere, Eggmanland not only pays respects to one of my favourite characters in the series in a truly unique way, but fuels my ego as a gamer. Every time I had a setback in this level on my first run through, I wasn't thinking about how unfair the enemy placement was or whether the level was too long. I wanted one thing and one thing only, to weather the storm and kick Eggman's ass. And I think that's what Sonic Team were going for with this level. Trying to capture that old school gaming mentality that the franchise was built on, while also making the player really want to kick Eggman in the dick for the shit he put you through. Its brilliance doesn't stop there however, as the very next boss fight gives the player a really satisfying reward of beating the level, but that's a story for another time.